We have a whole map of the Kundalini and the chakras and all of that. So I hope you'll be here long enough to take that module or get a class in it. But Kundalini is consciousness, right? And it's consciousness that starts out at its most undeveloped, curled up form, right? The curled up serpent in the Muladhara chakra. So it is the story of the rising of consciousness. This is another way of mapping the Kundalini, but that's all Kundalini is. Now, Kundalini can rise in a very gradual, smooth way of maturation and development that, is very beautiful and stately and graceful as a result of, living a very pure, wholesome life, which is very rare these days, but that's the way it used to be done. And one would go through the different stages of life, the different ashramas, they called them in classical India, artha, kama, dharma, moksha, right? Everyone's aware of those. So the consciousness at different stages opens to different dimensions of its being that are relevant to where you are in life. And if it happens that way, there's no problem at all. It's just the unfoldment of your potentiality. But what happens these days is it opens in a chaotic way. Somebody will take ayahuasca and have a huge opening, but the vessel of their ego is not able to contain it, and it cracks as a result, right? And they can come back with all kinds of problems as a result of this that then have to be healed. If you get too much information too soon, without the proper containment and guidance and interpretation, it can create lots more problems than you had to begin with. So the growth and development of consciousness needs to be managed properly. This was the role of gurus and of priests and mullahs and lamas in the old days, when people would apprentice to a spiritual guide and they would go through the Kundalini process in as fast a way as they were ready for. But nowadays, it's do it yourself, and people, take a drug or something else and have an extreme experience, but can't integrate it, right? So the Kundalini is not the problem. The problem is trying to force it and trying to push it artificially and trying to get somewhere that you haven't created a basis to sustain, which will then cause a crash to happen. You won't be able to establish yourself at the next assemblage point beyond the one that you're at. Okay? So, do you have another question about Kundalini? I didn't answer.
I think it answers my question. I mean, it's active in me, so I'm just wondering how best to manage it. Obviously, meditation.
Well, how do you experience it? When you say it is in you, what is the it?
I mean, it changes. It's changed over time. When it first happened, it rose, this energy that seemed to have its own awareness rose from the base of my spine to the top of my head and started peeking around. Subsequently, I went through a period of about a year where I had this electrical energy that seemed to be pulsating from my spine to my extremities, trying to open up, my experience as trying to open up my nadis, my meridians.
Right.
And so I do energy practice as well. It seems to be growing over time. And where my body's open, it feels blissful.
Right.
But it's almost like this river of energy increases. So where it hits a block, it can feel more intense. So it's managing that process.
Okay, so the blocks, you see, what you're dealing with now is the integration of the pranamaya kosha with the annamaya kosha. But the blocks are caused by the manomaya kosha. And so that's the area you have to work in. They are blocks of a subconscious kind that are somatized. You get rid of those blocks and that electrical energy, that's just the bliss, of Satchidananda. It's not a problem at all. But because there's a blockage, and it probably is a blockage between the manomaya kosha and the vijnanamaya kosha. There's some blockage in the archetypal form being fully embodied. And so that causes a glitch in the energy field. And so the more you surrender to the Kundalini and not think of it and me, but think of that's I, and the me has to surrender to the I, and the Kundalini will then come down as Shaktipat rather than coming up or getting blocked. And it will come from even beyond the Anandamaya kosha, but it will integrate all of the koshas into harmony. And then you will find that you are this infinite light. It won't even be centered in the body anymore. It'll include the body, but it will be non-localizable. Avalokiteshvara light, right? So it is that spiritual energy that is calling you back home. It's your real self.